Hello and good morning. Welcome to another M3DM live stream. It feels like I haven't hung out with you guys in forever because I changed my schedule up a little bit, so kind of took a little more days off from live stream than usual. I used to stream Monday through Friday, and now I stream Thursday through Sunday. So I take Tuesday, Wednesday off. Having the days off in the middle of the week has been really nice, especially around holiday season. There's a lot of stuff that Ricky and I want to go do, and yeah, there's been like no one out and about because no one's doing stuff at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. So that's been pretty nice. Today's gonna be a fun stream. I'm gonna be sculpting a haunted willow tree. It's gonna be based on the scary story, The Dead Hand, from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I have some art to go off of here. It's from Sima Gamel. It's really spooky, so if you don't like spooky, don't look. So this is what I'm gonna be basing it off. It's not actually gonna be like a head. There's not technically even like the tree isn't what does the killing even in the story, or the mutilating. It's a scary story. Anyway, but there's a snag of willow trees that it talks about, and a snag just being like a bunch of dead, spooky looking trees. So that's what I'm going to be sculpting. It's not gonna have a head, but it's gonna have very spooky vibes, and making trees 3D printable is a whole challenge in itself, but we're gonna figure that out together. Good morning, Arch. Alrighty, so yeah, kind of a different little stream here, and then later this week I'll be sculpting a skeleton dragon, and that'll be a 2-part stream because there's no way I can finish that in one day. Alrighty, and then one more thing before we get started here. I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys my crocheting update because you guys have been asking about it, so make it part of my intro process here, showing you guys what I made last. Alright, so this is the most recent thing that I crocheted over the weekend, and it is a nutcracker. So yeah, I also bought like $100 worth of yarn this morning because it's Black Friday, so it's been a pretty good morning. I'm gonna have it count as like birthday, Christmas kind of thing too, because $100 in yarn is absolutely extravagant, and I'm set for a long time now. But anyway, if you look at him really close, he's definitely the worst one I've made so far. Like, he's very cute, but he was very complicated and pushed my skill set. So if you look, like, he's just a little like crooked. Like, all of him is just slightly bent to the left, and like, I don't know why his mustache is so much longer on one side than the other. I don't know. Same with his eyes. They're like, he's very cute. He's very precious. But my other ones I've made have been like perfect, so I'll grab them. Good morning, pet. These ones were much more simple, so they came out perfect. Like, this one is flawless. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's perfect. And this is the second one I ever made, which is Fred. And this one's really, really good too. But as you can tell, these designs were a lot more simple than this guy. This guy was kind of a nightmare. I like him. But yeah, that's the crochet update. I've also started painting minis again, like regularly. I feel like a lot of stuff's coming together. I went through a little bit of a slump there because I was feeling really sad about the holidays because I'm not gonna be home. And I had a really good talk with my husband about it outside of Starbucks. Well, we were in Starbucks and he brought it up and I started crying, so we went and sat in the truck. And after sipping on some coffee and talking for an hour, we had a really good chat. Not feeling so sad about the holidays anymore. We have some good plans. Yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. We're thinking about renting a cabin for Christmas, so I'm really excited about that. But yeah, those are all of the updates. It's all the housekeeping. Let's go ahead and get sculpting. It feels good to kind of take my time at the beginning of these live streams now because I'm getting more comfortable doing this, and y'all have been so receptive to like updates about me and like what I'm doing, so I'm really happy to share that with you guys. Before I kind of thought of it like, okay, I am the artist, I am here to do art and go away. But now I'm happy to kind of hang out and talk with y'all. Alright, I have a standing desk, but I live stream for so long that I don't stand. I sit at a bar stool, and I'm usually cross-legged, funny enough. So if you see me all like readjusting, it's because I sit all perched. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna make my little face smaller here, and we're gonna start sculpting a tree. I don't do this very often, so this isn't gonna be a typical stream where I kind of just like slam through it. I'm gonna have a bit of a slower pace here. as I try to like find these shapes, and I have lots of references I'm consulting it as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and sculpt this spooky willow tree. I'm gonna put an hour on the clock, and I'm hoping that I can get this blocked out in like tree shape-esque. When you're sculpting trees, you really gotta nail your forms and proportions, and it's really challenging actually. So I'm looking forward to it. All right. So a couple things here. I usually don't show the starting part of my stream here. I do it off camera, but since we're doing a different kind of stream, I might as well show you my whole process. So by default, ZBrush has this grid here. I don't like it. You can get rid of it by holding Shift and P on your computer, and it goes away. So that's nice. I'm also gonna change my material. My matte cap is also what it's called. I'm gonna change that to polyskin. So if you hold spacebar, it brings up this menu. You can click on this and then bring up polyskin. There we go. I think I'm also gonna put on my beanie. I'm cold and my hair is kind of poofing in my face. Size here as well. Good morning. Getting really close to Thanksgiving. I know a lot of you guys are overseas, but if you guys have any fun Thanksgiving plans, let me know. I'll be cooking with the housemates. All right, there we go. Now I have warm head. Yeah, I had a super good weekend. And yeah, so it says, ooh, from scratch. Yes, this will be a from scratch one. All right. Oh, I can't remember who it was last week. I think it was Corey. They were mentioning like, I never get to see you sculpt from scratch. And I'm like, I've done it a few times recently, and it's the only streams they've missed are the ones I sculpt from scratch. So it'd be really funny if this is the stream that he misses. Alrighty. Would it help you guys if I had my references on screen? I want to ask that now, because I have room to have my references on screen all the time. So if you guys want to see that, just let me know. Oh goodness, very happy for 10 people here. Hi. Good to see y'all. Alrighty. Well, okay. It's time to sculpt. Alright, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna use a lot of curve brushes for this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of create a piece of floor. There we go. And we're gonna poly paint as we go too. So I'm gonna pick a kind of brown color here. There we go. And I'm thinking for this willow tree, I'm actually gonna do more than just a willow tree. I'm gonna have some rocks and spookiness as well. There we go. Mark says, yes on references, thank you. Okay, I can do that. Yeah, I'm real shy about having references on screen because I don't have like all the descriptions of where I got them. I just screenshot stuff on Google Images. But I realize it. I'm not making a one-to-one for anything. Here we go. So these are my references, y'all. The one on top was provided by the requester. Oh, that's kind of nice for me too. This is gonna help me as well. Let me adjust OBS as well because I have my entire screen kind of clipped. Here we go. Thank you guys for not minding me adjusting this on live stream. I want to do the best experience I can for y'all, you know? All right, we're gonna put our timer up here. Not just for me. All right, well, those are my references. You guys will actually be able to see me scroll and look at these as we go. Yeah, and if you have any questions like where these came from, or I also get shy because like I know that this looks AI generated, and some people like get really sensitive about that. And I understand there's a lot of nuance to that, but I like don't shoot the messenger. I'm just looking at it for proportions. Okay. That looks good. Oh, I have so much more room on both screens now. All right, I love asking you guys questions. You've now permanently improved my streams by just a little bit, but each bit matters, so excellent. All right. So I want this I love the aesthetic of this willow tree. We're not gonna actually have any leaves on it though. But I do want to start getting this shape that's gonna be sitting on. So let's go ahead and do that. So what I'm doing right now is I'm really thinking of this terrain piece. It's gonna be more than just a tree. I really want this to be, like, think of like the Whomping Willow from Harry Potter. I want it to have as much personality and character as a full-blown character or creature would. So in order to portray all of that, you usually need to have more elements to it than just the tree. So it's gonna be on like a bit of a slope here. I'm going through a lot of these deformations really quick, so if you're new or you're wanting to learn ZBrush, reminder that I teach, and I'm happy to teach y'all. That's pinned on top. But feel free to ask. All right, let's give this like a dark, spooky gray color. And then the ground, I want to do just like a flat, dark color. There we go. All right, we got our blobs. Now let's start on this actual tree, okay? So, trees are kind of a pain in the butt because they're similar to hands. Just because you're not an artist, you've seen so many hands and trees in your life, you'll be able to look at it and just like know it's wrong. And that's why people get really frustrated drawing hands. It's not just, I mean, they're also pretty complicated, but it's because you inherently know what they look like. You've been studying them unintentionally your entire life. All right, so what I did here is I grabbed my curved tube brush, I went to stroke, and I adjusted the curve modifier. So it's gonna naturally taper now. I have size enabled, and there's a nice little graph here. So yeah. Mark says, is there a site where creators share their work for others to use in various stages of development? So in other words, where you can import trees and you can alter it to make it your own. Is there a site? Yes. Oh my goodness. I have a resource to share with you guys. If you're a 3D artist, you're gonna love this. Check it out. Bam. It's called thebasemesh.com. I use it all the time. It's fantastic. It's all free to use. No royalties. I mean, don't like just download the file and like sell it. That's weird. But use it to modify and like to create your own stuff. Oh, so glad you asked that, Mark, because again, I've been doing this for years. Sometimes I don't even realize how much I have to share with y'all. Almost done with my coffee. Reminder, if you're hanging out, having a good time, like the stream, it really helps. All right, where did I put my coffee? My desk is so full. Okay, coffee goes over here. Now it's water time. My voice is so raspy this morning. I guess that just happens when I get cold. I don't know. Alrighty, here we go. Sweet. Mark says, excellent, thank you. You are so welcome. Sai says, as if the stream wasn't already amazing, that's a site I'll definitely use. Yay, I'm so glad. Again, reminder to everyone, I just put a very, very helpful website in the chat called thebasemesh.com. It's incredible. It's a newer thing. The site released like a year ago. Support them. They're great. I think they have a Patreon. I think I donate $1. If I don't, I'm gonna start doing that. Anyway. Even if you're not a 3D artist, 2D gets a lot of use out of that as well, because like Mac has a pre-built-in 3D viewer, and you can use it to like bring in an asset and then kind of like, I've seen 2D artists block out scenes in 3D and then trace over them to get their perspective correct. So there's a lot you can do with it. Okay. All right, so now we're doing the tree. So this model right here, I think I saw in Colt, I just screenshotted it. They're obviously very new to ZBrush. They still have that harsh black to gray gradient, and this isn't a super detailed model, but they actually have a really good structure of primary forms here, and that's actually why I screenshotted it. Now that I'm gonna share my references with y'all, you'll see I actually screenshot a variety of types of work. I screenshot beginners, I screenshot artists that are much better than me, real life. It's quite the combination. So this is Stephen Gamble's art. That was from the Patreon requester. Reminder that everything I do on stream is a Patreon request that we shared with everyone that supports me on Patreon. This is definitely some AI generated crap. I like the vibe. That's another model online. This is an actual tree. I like the textures and the bulbousness of it, so I want to incorporate that when I start sculpting my secondary forms. And then yeah, here we go. More primary. Alrighty. So right now I'm really focusing on this shape right here. What I can do is I see two forms here and they're actually very close to being the same. So I'm probably gonna sculpt one side and then mirror it. So let's do it. All right, now that I have this curve right here, I'm gonna make it a bit larger. It's very important that you get your proportions right when you're sculpting something like this. You're gonna hear me saying that over and over and over again, because if you don't have your trunk to branch ratio correct, your tree is gonna look really small or really big. So right now I'm going with my move brush and I'm regularly dynameshing as I go and to form this mesh. Yeah, that looks good. All right, it's just a tube right now. It needs to have more depth to it, so we're gonna taper the bottoms. There we go, check that out. That looks good. So I'm looking at the stream on my OBS. This just looks really dark. This whole scene looks really, really dark and kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can lighten this up for y'all, because I don't like how dark it looks. Let's turn on preview AO so we'll have ambient occlusion. This is just, ZBrush is just really dark. All right, something you can do as well, kind of like a flag to all my ZBrush artists, you can adjust your entire screen by going to Render, Adjustments, and click Adjust at the top here. You can do it manually, all these little things here. I find it much easier to click on the graph at the bottom, right here, and just click and pull up in the center. See how much that affects this? Again, don't sculpt up here. It's gonna wash out all your colors. But I'm gonna just bump it a tiny, tiny bit, and then maybe I'll actually change my matte cap as well and start. There we go, that's a little better. Again, if you're using matte caps, your lighting doesn't work anymore because the lighting is pre-baked in. All right, I think that's a little easier for y'all to see. Okay, very good. Let's keep getting our base forms here. I'm always obsessed with trying to make the stream as good as possible. Literally no one has ever complained. I'm just always wanting to improve. Sai says, much better now. The brightness really helps. Okay, good, I'm glad. I also appreciate, I reminded you guys to like the stream, and almost every single person did like it. We're almost matched viewers for like, I appreciate it. Mark says, sorry for all the questions. No, I love the questions. Please, please ask. Mark says, sorry for all the questions, but wondering if you can 3D scan images and import them into ZBrush and modify them. Yes, you can. There's a couple of 3D scanners on the market. I'm not really familiar with them, but that is a thing. It's still better just to sculpt it yourself, because when you're scanning an image and bringing it in like a character, you have no control over the different shells. So like the hair versus the armor. But if you're 3D scanning like a tree that's like one piece, yeah, that's pretty awesome. That'd be really, really smart. All right, so again, I'm looking at this reference at the bottom left here. Let me scroll up. Here we go. And see this curve right here? Kind of like this backwards C? That's what I'm trying to emulate right now. But in my own way, obviously, because I want to have my own flow. Okay, I can see I'm actually getting a little confused with the shape here. I'm following two different curves. I need to pick one curve or the other. Why not both? All right. I need to push this form over even more. There we go. Yeah, if you're lurking and you have questions, do not be shy. Ask. I can think of questions you guys could ask that would annoy me, but it'd have to be like very off topic and like silly. Even then, annoy is a strong word. I would just be like, I'd probably still answer your question. I have a guy that always comes in at the end of the stream, Royce, and he always asks an end of the stream question, like pizza and pineapple or not, that kind of stuff. And I love it, so. Actually, you're probably pretty good for whatever question that you'd ask. And then Pat is answering Mark and said, there's an open source scanner that works pretty well called, OpenScan. That's very fitting. All right, again, following this curve right here, but I'm changing it quite a bit. I do like all these spooky branches sticking straight up, but I kind of want more of a blend for what kind of tree I'm doing here. It's very important when you're doing your trees that they taper down. Otherwise, you kind of lose the tree illusion of it. I'm also going through with my inflate brush and adding some asymmetry and some lumpiness to it. All right, looks good. We're 15 minutes in. I've mostly been talking the whole time, so I'm happy with my progress. Let's build these shapes in a little more. Let's go with the standard brush, turn on lazy radius, and we're gonna start pulling some more confident shapes on these roots. I'm adding and taking away material, kind of back and forth. This is actually very similar to how I create fabric folds for pleats of a skirt, funny enough. I'm going in with a smooth brush, but only a little bit. Don't smooth out all the beautiful forms that you just made. Remember, do not mumble when you sculpt. It's okay if your sculpt is ugly, but say it confidently. If you keep smoothing all your work as soon as you do it, you're not saying anything. There we go. I'm very happy I imported this mound in here right from the start, like this grass mound. I usually don't do that. It's also been a really long time since I've sculpted a tree from scratch. I usually keep reworking this base mesh I have, which is fine, but it was time to... I've improved a lot over the last year, and I'm starting to outgrow a lot of my base meshes, which kind of sucks because the whole point of having base meshes is so it could save me time, but then I improved a lot, so now I have to remake all my base meshes with my new skill level. Oh hey, I have a new subscriber. Chop Gamer. Hey, thank you, I really appreciate it. I've made my OBS screen, which is what captures my stream and shares it with y'all, really big on my other screen so I can see when the subscriber notification pops up, because I was missing it stream after stream and it was driving me crazy. I know you guys probably don't care, like I don't need to say it out loud. I like to say it out loud, it makes me happy. All right. And I always like when people subscribe and it's so obvious their username like lines up with like what I do, like Chop Gamer, like that's spot on. Like I'm literally sculpting stuff for tabletop games, but I also play a ton of video games in my free time. I know they're gonna fit right in. All right. So something that I'm kind of thinking about here is this joint. I want to start getting that bulb texture in here, but not quite yet. So we need to figure out how I want to do that, because like this looks very, very tree, much tree, okay? But as I work up this form, I think it's getting a little less confident in the forms, and there's no branches. So I'm unsure if this is where I start adding more forms to it, or if I just need to start adding more actual subtools. Just kind of an insight to what's going on in my brain as I'm designing this. Yeah, I'm not certain about this shape right here. I think it needs more volume. So an easy way to do that is move in the back face mask. So now if I click and drag, look at that, just adds a bunch of volume, just like that. If I didn't have back face mask on, what it does is it just moves the entire mesh, and that's not helpful for me. Just be careful when you're using back face mask, because you can get a bunch of artifacts and goofiness. I use it a lot. I also want to be careful, because if I'm clever enough, guys, I can design this to be print without supports. I usually don't do that on purpose, because it's a huge pain and it starts to limit like the creativity of it, but maybe I can strike a happy balance here. I've been getting so many more people supporting me on Patreon recently that have FDM printers, and I'm always thinking about them. I know anything I sculpt on here will print on resin, but I'm not always sure for FDM, and I want to show them some love too. When I first started doing this full time, I only sculpted for FDM printers because that's all there was. Kind of crazy to think about that. All right, this is looking pretty good. Running over the ends here with the taper brush, because as I mentioned, or pinch, because as I mentioned before, it's very important that when you're sculpting trees, they get thinner as they go to the top. It sounds simple and obvious, but it's easy to forget about. I'm also masking the bottom here, and I'm going to stretch this form up even taller. All right, we have a pretty nice shape here, yeah? Let's see if this is going to work the way that I was hoping. We're now going to duplicate this entire mesh and mirror it. Kind of see what we get. So to quickly duplicate, I hold Command Shift and D for duplicate and click mirror. All right, interesting shape. Obviously needs some shaping. Honestly, I think this is pretty cool as it is. It kind of reminds me of like this spooky tree portal. But that's not what we're sculpting. We are just sculpting a literal tree. All right, so let me go ahead and nudge this back. And we're gonna wrap these together, kind of like a nice tree hug. I have my move brush with a pretty high intensity here, so I'm preserving the volume. I'm just moving the shape over. There we go. At the beginning of the stream, I gave a little more of an intro about like what I've been doing, and I talked about all the things I've crocheted recently, like this little guy, this nutcracker. And this morning is when Black Friday deals have really started online. So I indulged and bought like $100 worth of yarn, which is gonna last me like 3 years. Very excited, very, very excited. All that comes in like next week. My birthday is next month, so I'm considering it just like a really happy birthday to me. My husband was so funny. He's like, what do you want for your birthday this year? Because he knows a lot of stuff that I like already. We've been together for 10 years, but he knows I always have something that I really, really want. And I just let him know I want all the yarn, every color. So that's what I got. We have plans to probably, for Christmas, have like an Airbnb like cabin, and I plan to just sit by that fireplace and crochet all Christmas and Christmas Eve. So those are my holiday plans. Really, really excited about it. This is working so well. This is beautiful. So when you're doing complicated shapes, even if it's not a character, because a character you very easily have like your armor, clothes, hair, that kind of stuff. When you're doing scatter terrain, it still benefits you to break things down into multiple subtools. And subtools are just pieces in your mesh. So if I hit Shift F, you can see this is a piece, there's another one. There's currently 4 pieces on screen. So yeah. It's important that this tree has this big upside down umbrella look. So I'm just gonna mask certain areas and pull them out to make sure this tree has that look to it. I'm also concerned it's not tall enough. So let's go ahead and stretch these limbs a bit more. There we go. And then I'm not gonna worry about the branches being all interesting with multiple forms and different lumps right now. I just want to make sure they read clearly. I can go in later for all these interesting forms. I have a much better understanding of the trunk than the branches, so I'm gonna lean into that for right now. I'm gonna go in later on this trunk part and add all these like lovely burls and layering. Cool. Need to be careful here. I'm starting to lose some of that tapering, so I'll go with my inflate brush. Got to make sure that the branches are always getting thinner as they go up. There can't be any, like, see how this area right here is thicker than the joint? That's going to make this look unclear. Also inflating these 2 pieces that are overlapping on the trunk because I don't want a gap in the center. Again, I'm really proud of my decision to add this like lump that it's sitting on, like this moss mound. I'm gonna go ahead and taper the bottom of this moss mound as well. There we go. So that's the before, that's the after. Just gives it a more organic shape. Lovely. I can go ahead and delete the floor, I believe. Let me see how it looks like without it. Yeah, that looks good. I just had it there kind of as a guide for me. But I don't think I need it anymore. All right, looking pretty good, looking spooky. I know it's not Halloween time anymore, it's now Thanksgiving, Christmas, but for me, I kind of do spooky stuff all year, so. All right, I like how this is looking from pretty much every angle, except for the tree branches. They're on the exact same plane as if they're squished between the pane of glass, and I don't want that. So as I add more branches, I need to be thoughtful of where I'm adding them. Okay, how do I want to add more branches? And what kind of tree do I want? Because like my references, I have some different kinds here. I like this one a lot. So let's make this shape a little more similar to that. I'm gonna make these leading branches here a different subtool. And it's gonna be pretty large as well. Here we are. There's one big branch. Pretty much just covering the branch that I already had kind of blocked out. I'm also going to Dynamesh at a slightly lower resolution because this is a bit high. I might actually start ZBrushing this instead. There we go, because I really want this like clean form to work with. There we go. That's much easier to work with. Excellent. I'm gonna keep duplicating this and moving it around to start building up the branches of this tree. There we are. Taylor says, is this tree alive? No. No. I think it is dead, but possessed. I really think about that. Because willow trees are supposed... I don't think willow trees drop their leaves. And this... Yeah, I call it a willow tree, but it's not really going to be a willow tree. It's just going to be spoopy. Spoopy tree. It's based on the dead hand story from that book, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And the art right here is what the requester gave me, which is from Stephen Gamble. The guy in the story isn't actually injured by a tree. But that's like, he walks into this orchard, like this snag of old willow trees, pretty much saying that he's not afraid of it. And then he gets very, very injured. So it's kind of like implied that it's the tree, but it's not. It's like a spirits that are in the forest, or the dead hand. Like it's a floating, disembodied hand. But the requester didn't ask me to sculpt the hand. They wanted the tree. They called it a corpse tree. So that's kind of what we're doing. It has been so long since I have sculpted a tree from scratch. I'm doing a pretty good job. I like it. I'm liking the shapes here. Hey Miguel, what up? Hey bud, I hope your stream goes well today. I'm working on an old lady mage. Oh, very nice. I'm working on a spoopy tree. New spoopy tree. Haven't sculpted one from scratch in a long time. You know, since the story is called The Dead Hand, I'm already kind of seeing a hand here, like this is like the thumb and these are a couple of fingers. Maybe when you look at the top of this tree, it will look like a hand. I think I really like that. I think the requester would really enjoy if I was able to incorporate the name of the scary story into the actual design here. So if I do that, I can really give that impression of a hand by just making sure that the fingers or the branches emulate a hand. So the middle finger will be the longest, which would be this branch here. My only concern is I don't want to look too like goblet-y. Like it's not a goblet, it's not a cup, it is a tree. I think the trunk will take care of that for me. Oh, I think that's pretty neat. Oh yeah, I like that. Cool. Feeling very proud of myself with that one. Yeah, when I was getting so I prep for my live streams, gather my references on my weekend. It doesn't take me too long, but it's really important I have stuff going into the stream. And I just, even this one, I'm like, I'm gonna have to figure this out on stream. I don't really know what the smell is gonna look like. But I think this is working out nicely. That's so cool. It totally looks like a hand. Cool. I don't even have any secondary branches yet, and it's already looking pretty strong. It's really important that these branches are going to follow this like gnarled swirl pattern here. It's a smaller detail, but it's really going to preserve kind of like the flow of the model here. Oh, and Taylor, I'm so used to you joining my streams. I didn't give you a big welcome. Hi, welcome. Always good to see you. Some of y'all are becoming so regular that I don't not giving you the red carpet anymore. All right, and then I don't need this little fake branch guiding me anymore because I put a real branch on top of it. There we go. Oh, cool. All right, I'm gonna make sure that each one of these fingers, branches, is a different piece. That way I have maximum flexibility to move these shapes around. I could just have them move topological and have them in the same subtool, but this just makes it a little faster for me. And then I need to kind of broaden this a little bit in the center to kind of give that impression of a palm. It won't read from the front, but when you look at it from the top, it's gonna kind of look like a hand. Cool. Cool. And then Miguel says, on a scale of 1 is Casper and 10 is the original Japanese Ringu, how spooky is this tree? 7. Taylor says, what if I had nails all gnarly like? Ooh, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. to do that, all I need to do is duplicate these branches, mask off the top here, close, polish, and just move it. At the very least, I need to have secondary branches anyway. It looks like nails. Oh, that's so cool. It's gonna work in two ways. It's gonna have that secondary, and then Miguel says a 7. Yeah, it's pretty high. So Miguel, this is from Stephen Gamel's art, which is my reference up here. This is what my patron requester gave me, and it's from. Remember, it was a book that was really common. Like I think it was like in book fairs and stuff. Scary stories to tell in the dark. Miguel says this stream is already too spook. Yeah, I didn't think this would be a good stream for you to join. All right, I would like if the fingernails are darker. So let's go ahead and darken those up, and let's put poly paint on the other limbs here. I'm not sure if I'm feeling so proud of this model because I went in with low expectations, or if it's just awesome. It's kind of hard for me to tell right now. I remember when I was first starting off learning how to sculpt, the first time I sculpted a tree was quite humbling. I found it very frustrating. So sometimes I forget that I have in fact improved immensely over the years, and it feels fun. Takes a lot of the mental pressure out. It just feels like I get to spend a lot more of my time making creative decisions instead of trying to like fight like my own disconnect between skill level and vision, you know? Like I hear a lot of my students say that all the time, that they have this really cool idea in their head and it's just so hard to translate into reality. And I'm really making a lot of progress of getting over that skill hump. So I can really just think of something, and as long as I can envision it clearly and I have like the creative vision for it, I can just make it happen, which is very liberating. It's a really good feeling. Alright, the thumb is not thick enough, and the proportions aren't quite right here for this to be a thumb. But I can change that. Alright, I've merged the thumb and the nail together. And everything else as well. Oops. So right now I'm just doing some really simple operations here where I am masking different pieces and merging them together so I can move them at once. Now that I've merged the thumb and the nail, I can transform them together, just like that. There we go. That's reading more thumb-like. I love that it just looks like a tree as well. Like it's not super on the nose that this is just a hand. Oh, it's so cool. Oh, Corey's here. Hey, check it out. I'm sculpting from scratch. It's actually happening. I was actually talking about you earlier in the stream. Like, I thought it'd be so funny if you missed this stream, because just last time you were like, I never get to see you sculpt from scratch. And I'm like, I've been doing it. It's the only streams that you've missed, so this worked out. And then last stream, you had a ton of really good questions, Corey. So if you have new ones, ask away. Happy to answer. Right now I'm going with the inflate brush and just making the mossy mound that it's sitting on a little more interesting to look at. All right, the branches here are really thick. we definitely need to adjust some proportion. So let's go ahead and jump into Transpose Master so I can adjust this all at once, because the branches are a little overpowering. And Corey says, I know, right? Yeah, it worked out. All right, so it's really important that the trunk is a lot bigger here. So I'm gonna mask that and just literally increase the size. I also think it'd benefit if this was wider from this angle. So I'm gonna draw a mask, kind of splitting it down the center here, and then grabbing my gizmo and rotating. And the reason why I'm rotating and not just doing a direct translational is because it's giving it a nice little taper. Looks like Miguel is gonna get back to his work. Sounds good, thanks for hanging out. And then Taylor's mentioning the nails, like with their hanging off a bit more like branches. Probably, I'm gonna be adding like really strong form secondary branches as well, so probably. As of now, I kind of like the double layered effect too, just the way that it is. All right, I'm gonna make the mound that it's sitting on a bit larger, making sure that I'm masking all the way through. And then running over the edges with my smooth brush. There we go. All right, gonna keep adjusting the proportions here. It's improving, but it needs more work still. That's really like where the magic is of this model. I could have just made the branches smaller, but this makes more sense in my head. Yeah, usually I have a section of the stream that's dedicated to posing the model, but in this case, the pose is the model, so this is happening much earlier in the stream. I like that this is reading fairly palm-like in the center. Cool. We're losing a little bit of volume here, so let's go ahead and add some more. Now I'm just kind of messing with the roots here and stretching them down a bit more. Those are gonna be really fun to paint. As of now, I don't have any of the roots overlapping each other. That'd be a really nice touch, and I'll probably make sure I add some of that detail in later. Alright, that's improving. Let's leave Transpose Master, and now let's start getting some of these secondary forms in here, which is going to be the smaller branches. Taylor has another good idea, I'm sure. It'd be kind of cool if there was a little bit of skin webbing between the finger branches. Ooh, yeah, kind of like right here. Yeah, I agree. Kind of like a more of a cup. I'm gonna review that design decision after I get more of these other branches in, but I like that idea a lot. All right, I'm going to save this. We're gonna call it Possessed Tree? Cursed Tree? We'll just say Haunted Willow. Not in all caps. Just normal is fine. I'm very timid about adding more of these branches because I don't want to lose the shape that I have here. But I might as well just add a bunch and then see what I think. All right, got one little branch. I kind of want to keep this upward direction here because as of right now, this model wouldn't require any supports to 3D print, and that's pretty nifty. So if I can keep it like that, I'd like to. Again, I offer all my files pre-supported for my patrons, so it's not really a huge deal for them, but it's still nice. All right, so far these secondary branches are improving the model and they're not distorting the clarity of this hand imagery. So far so good. My branch shapes are coming out somewhat similar, so I'm not feeling the need to use the same move brush to create them each time. Now I'm just kind of taking a duplicate approach and throwing on a bunch more branches and seeing if I like the shape. Oh yeah, this is cool as heck. This is gonna be a special model. Shira's back. Hello and welcome. Hello, are you doing a speed run of digital painting? It's looking amazing. Thank you. This is actually, it's a sculpting. So this is going to be a 3D printable model. So I can take this digital model here and then I can 3D print it into something like this. This is obviously a character, not a tree, but you get the gist. Pretty cool. I've been doing this for a while. All right. I guess it does kind of come across as a speed run. It's not. I've been doing this for years, so I have a pretty quick clip at how I work. I've also sculpted trees before, not in a while, but since it's not my very first time sculpting a tree, getting a little faster at it. I'm really happy with these secondary branches. I don't want to add too many. I'm already pretty happy with this. I'm thinking in one of these burls on the side too, I'm gonna sculpt in some ghostly face-like details as well. But we'll figure that out in the next stage of the stream. Very cool. Making sure that all of the joining branches here have a very thick taper that leads to like the primary branch it's splitting from. And that's for two reasons. One, that's what trees look like, and two, it'll just make it a little sturdier when 3D printed. All right, so it's really the detailing that's going to make this look grotesque and spooky. I think we're at a pretty good direction here. I think it's time to put a stamp on the screen. All right, we got our first little progress point. I also think that this left side is maybe a little too tall all the way up, but I do like it still. So right now I'm kind of like nudging where these bends are because they're also going to kind of double up as like knuckles of sort. So we'll see. She says, that's so cool. Yesterday I was trying to do a modular mountain tile, but I need to study a little bit more of textures. Yeah, it always comes back down to textures, right? Like so many of my references here are just close-ups of trees, and I'm like, what is this supposed to actually look like? And then these little branches are cool, but they need to be a bit smaller. There we go, that's better. Very cool. Yeah, guys, this is going to be a supportless model, so that's pretty fun. All right, let's go ahead and add some more of these root details I was talking about, since we still have 7 minutes left on our initial hour blockout goal, and we're crushing that. That's going really, really well. All right, so right now you'll notice the curve brush just sinks into the mesh, and I don't want that. So to fix it, just go to Picker and go from 1Z to continuous Z, and now this curve brush will wrap and bend with the model. See? Yeah, pretty cool. All right, where can I have a nice overlapping root? I think that would be a good one to have going under this one. I should have done that in a different order, but it doesn't matter. Maybe not. I like this one. This root's definitely gonna stay. Making sure I'm smoothing the edges and then inflating the top. There we go. I like this one right here. This root could be a bit stronger, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna kind of trace over it with my curve brush. Come on, be a big size. There we go. Oh yeah, I could actually do that. That's very odd. That's not normal tree-like at all, which is good because this isn't a normal tree. Spoopy tree. And you can always sculpt in this kind of like these volumes and details. I find it always works better when you take the time to make it a different subtool. All right, adding a little more volume on these joints. There we go. Yeah, that's looking gross. It's looking spookier. Again, so what's gonna make this tree look gross and cursed is gonna be the detailing, which begins with the secondary forms. It's important that I'm following the contours in the model that I've already kind of blocked out though, otherwise it's just going to make the entire model hard to read, which isn't the goal. I want to make sure everything I'm adding here, even though it does look like a more is more approach, there's a lot more subtlety to it. I still don't have as much of that overlapping root detail that I was talking about. I do want that. So let me find another place where I can do that. I'm gonna need to hide this root right here. And let's kind of follow this line here. There we go. Excellent. I don't think that reads very well. I like it. I don't love it. Delete. Okay. Here we go. I know how to do this. We're gonna go on this side. There we go. Excellent. Cool. Cool. I'm really digging this. I need another big root on this side, and then we're pretty much good to start going to the fine detail. We only have 3 minutes left on the clock right now for my initial hour timeline to block out, and I think we crushed it. Thank you guys for sharing your ideas and encouragement. I always appreciate it. When I first started streaming, I never expected it to be such a collaborative effort. I expected people would comment like, hey, maybe do this, but I didn't expect the ideas to be so good. Y'all get really good compliments too. Like, it's definitely making me a better artist. Live streaming. Didn't expect that. And yeah, I have no problem being blunt about that. The whole reason I started live streaming is because I'm like, well, I need more people to see my art, and posting into the void that is Instagram isn't really doing anything, so maybe I'll put my face on camera and make some stuff live and see if that resonates with people, and boy has it. It's been a really good month. So yeah, if you look at the stamp I have on the left here, you can see I have the beginning of these forms and like how I want them to look, and I went in with my secondary forms to improve and strengthen the clarity of my primary forms. So the primary form is this big tree trunk, right? There's no details on it really. And then I went in with a tube brush and kind of really bulked up what these roots would look like in this twisting and gave it some more motion. Again, it complements the primary form. If your primary forms suck, no amount of secondary forms are going to save you. And that's why I'm always really always harping on my students, nail your proportions, really spend most of the time in the beginning and blocking out your shapes and stuff. Because that's where the soul of the model is. And she says, I'm already imagining a lot of this on the table, running in a counter in a cemetery. Thank you. That's exactly what this is supposed to suit. So it means a lot that you can envision this model being used. I mean, if I put a cute rope swing on this, I could totally see it being a grandma or grandkids, you know? And then the tree eats one. Voxel's here, yeah. What up, what up? We're sculpting a spooky tree today. Pat says, printing these types of trees always looks better if you add paper cut leaves afterwards. They sell paper punches with minis, tree leaf shapes, and it looks super cool. Ooh, that sounds super cool. I appreciate you sharing that technique. That's cool as heck. I've also seen people drop just moss balls on top of them and kind of pull them to fit, and it looks really good. as of now, I'm happy to tell y'all this is going to be a supportless model. I love that. So, pretty neat. All right, we are at the end of our first hour mark, which I'm really happy about. This was way more progress than I didn't really know how the stream was going to go because I didn't have a super clear vision of this model other than a tree. This is based on the scary story, The Dead Hand, which is why I went really strong with this imagery here of a hand. From the top, you can see the main part of the fingers here and then the thumb. It's pretty subtle, but it's a really nice detail that I get to know about. Voxel says, had an all-nighter a night before last. Oof. I never did that. Even in college, I didn't do all-nighters. I gotta get my sleep, y'all. Voxel said 30 subtools needed handling. Oh my goodness, I would have... Whew, that's frustrating. Well, I'm glad you got through it. All right, let's go ahead and add a little bit more depth here to the poly paint. Why is it not color picking that? Why do you think that color isn't real, ZBrush? I'm looking at the color. One second. My dog's wandering around the house. I can hear him like trying to look for me. 1 second. Are you lost? Oh, I thought he was wandering around. Okay, sounds good. I heard him step in the door and I was like, did he get out? Never mind, dog is handled, no problem. My husband was just re-tucking him in. After breakfast, my dog just goes like straight back to sleep for a big nap, and then he parties the rest of the day. A good little dog. All right, I don't know why this color, oh, this color is weird because I have a matte cap. That's why. Never mind. All right, adding some poly paint here is really gonna add some more visual interest and make it a little easier to see on stream. I'm just doing this really quickly, going in with the paintbrush, but specifically with the gradient on. There we are. Gonna give the same treatment to the mound here, but I'm gonna have it darkest at the center. Check that out. Cool. Pat says, if you add ropes with bits of bodies hanging from them, it really cranks up the creep factor. It sure would. Again, the requester, this originally was asked to be a corpse tree. Do I have his request? This is some description that I grabbed from the short story. It's skeletons of giant trees, snacks, the people would call them, rose up out of the muck, their dead branches reaching out like long twisted arms. So that's the imagery I'm trying to capture here from the short story. I need to share this with my students directly. I had a student recently, like I'm gonna say my student was arguing with me, but they weren't. It was a conversation that sounded crabby from them. They pretty much were like, you keep telling me to go lower poly. They're like, I can't sculpt a model that low poly. And I think they were trying to argue that they needed at least 100,000 points to get anything done. And I was like, no, honey, trust me. Lower poly. This entire tree right here is not even 25,000 points. It's tiny. And to be clear, like they weren't being snotty. They were just like genuinely like perplexed that I kept telling them like, stop working at 1,000,000 points, please. Pat says that's creepy, right? It's a very spooky description. All right, so I got some more people in here. In the beginning, I asked the stream if you guys liked seeing my references on screen. One person very clearly said yes, and so I did it. I've liked having it available for me to see. Do you guys have any thoughts or opinions of having my references on screen? I haven't done it in the past because I don't have any descriptions of like where I got these images, so I don't know, I feel bad if the artist that made this model was like, hey, you didn't have my name on there. I don't know. And then this one right here, I'm 90% sure is AI generated, and I know that gets people in a whole tiffy, and it should. I understand sensitivity there, I really do. But that's not what I want my stream to be about. So I'm curious if you guys have opinions on that. as of now, I'm planning on having all my future live streams will have my references on screen as well. So yeah, let me know what you think. I'm gonna take silence as a yes, because if y'all disliked it, I think you'd let me know too. All right, this is looking pretty darn good. So here's kind of like a nice little stamp. This is what it looked like before we did more adjustments to the proportions, and this is where we're at now with these. Check that out. I'll do quick before and after here. I'm just quickly toggling some progress here. I have a stamp on screen anyway, but I think this is kind of nice to see too. Pet says, if you work with so many polygons, what ends up happening is you get bumpy model. It does. It just gets lumpier and lumpier. No matter how many passes of clay polish you do, it's never going to look quite right. You are correct. My favorite is the smooth brush is pretty much completely useless if you have too many polys, which makes sense because it's dealing with so much. All right, well, this is our hour mark here. I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break, stretch, all that good stuff. Reminder to y'all that I have a new live stream schedule. It's still 5 days a week. I just shifted it a little bit. So now my work week starts on Thursday, today, instead of Monday. So I'm going to be streaming Thursday through Monday, which means I'm available all weekend. I'm really excited for that. It allows me to spend more time with you guys when you're free and my students, as well as give me days off in the middle of the week, which makes it feels like I'm really taking more advantage of working for myself, because nobody is doing anything on a Tuesday at 2. The grocery store is empty, Dollywood is empty, like it's just been a really good time. So yeah, if you guys like the stream, leave a like. If you really like the stream, want to come back, subscribe, then YouTube will remind you when I'm streaming. I always start at 11 a.m. Eastern time, but y'all got your own lives and plans and stuff. I don't expect you to remember that. Okay, I'll be back in about 2 minutes. Thank you guys for hanging out. back. Ooh, and right on time, 12:20. Very good. I see Nerd joined. Hello, hello. And Royce. Very good. Good to see you both. All right, well, I'm gonna probably put another maybe 30 minutes and try to detail this. I have started painting my minis more, so I think I want to share that with you guys first, if you don't mind. Bam, make me really big. And yeah, I'm gonna show you guys some stuff I've been working on painting. It's not great. I'm much better at sculpting. All right, I got 3 work in progresses to show you. I sculpted all of these, and I have them somewhat painted. Not sure if the lighting will be good enough for this, but we're gonna find out. All right, so this first one is like this Eldritch Blood Hag. Went very intense on the blood. This is using like contrast paints and stuff. I wonder if I have like a... Try to see like what background will work best for this. Nope, that's shiny. But anyway, this is her. I love the silhouette and stuff. Trying to get better at like blending her hair and stuff. And then I have a much bigger one over here. This is Baylor. I sculpted this a couple months ago. It's one of my first legendary models that I painted and sculpted. Again, has a lot of work to go. I have like this white smearing on here. I'm gonna do a dark wash on top of that. And then I did this like gold for his whip. I don't like it. So yeah, he's definitely tabletop paint ready. I tried something new as well where I used like a normal type of like mini paint for the base and then went over it with a contrast paint and ended up looking like really dirty and cool. So I'm happy with that. I'm using the contrast paint. It's kind of like as a colored wash. And this one's pretty early on. This is like an Eldritch Hag. The top of her isn't painted, but that like layered skirt is looking pretty darn good. So yeah, getting some minis painted too. I really want to paint this one because this is like really pretty. This is one of my Spicy Arts models. Again, these are all sculpted by me. Just different businesses that I run. So yeah. Corey says, so these are what you use the wash on? Yeah. I actually didn't use a wash on any of these, funny enough. But contrast paints kind of function similar to a wash, so yeah. Yeah, I knew you guys would like seeing my mini painting update. If you missed the beginning of the stream, I have a new crochet little guy too. I made a nutcracker. He's the worst one I've made because he was the most complicated, so there's actually a decent amount of mistakes on this. Like, look at his mustache. I don't know why it's so much longer on one side than the other. I swear it looks symmetrical. I started sewing it on and I was like, it looks clipped on one side. Whatever. So yeah, those are all the crafts updates. Let's get back to some sculpting. It cracks me up I have my lighting so good with my camera now. My room is like dark. Like I sculpt in a literal cave because my camera hates anything else. All right, let's get rolling. Like always, if you guys have questions, feel free to ask. If not, I'm gonna kind of just have like a relaxed chatter in the background. Pet says, is that the 5th beetle? Oh, like from like the Beatles? No. Okay. Trying to think what my goal is. So I have some commissions I'm working on afterwards. One's actually from a while ago. It's a chess set. So I'm going to finish that up today and tomorrow after work. So I want to make sure my live streams aren't too draining, but I need to do good work still too. Corey said, yeah, nice, congrats on finishing up the nutcracker. Yeah, you've kind of seen the progress as I have been crocheting that. So yeah, I'm really happy to have that one done. I think I can get a lot of this detail blocked out in 30 minutes. It's a little ambitious. We're gonna try. All right, I'm gonna set my timer for 30 minutes and we'll get rolling. Boop. It's been reset for 30. And let's get going. Nerd says, ooh, I love chess too. And then can you fill me in on the tree today? Oh, absolutely. So the tree today, let me make sure I pause ads because when you guys ask a question, ads pop up. All right, so here's what we're doing today. And the next 30 minutes, I'm going to fully detail this tree. And where did this come from? This is based on the scary story, The Dead Hand, which is from the book, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It was all illustrated by Stephen Gamble, who did this lovely monstrosity of art at the upper left-hand corner here. I know my lefts and rights. There's a funny story on that, but later. And then I grabbed some references underneath to kind of help me out to construct this. So this is some quotes from the short story that I stitched together to help me make this tree here. Skeletons of giant trees, snags, the people called them, rose up out of the muck, their dead branches reaching out like long twisted arms. So that's kind of the vibe we want here. The story is called The Dead Hand because there's a disembodied hand that shows up later that harms one of the poor peasant folk that doesn't believe in the danger of the snag. And instead of asking me to sculpt the hand, the requester on Patreon, that's someone that gives me money every month to make models. Just to be clear, that's what Patreon is. If you're interested in that, want to tell me to sculpt, description, links. Anyway, so I decided to kind of merge the two, and I gave this tree a hand formation in the branches. And it's actually pretty subtle, and I'm really, really proud of myself for this one. So yeah, and then I had some really good suggestions. Taylor suggested having like these fingernails on there. This isn't really what he meant, but I liked what I did with it anyway. I kind of dressed up these secondary branches to emphasize this hand-like structure. So that is what's going on today. That's where the background of the tree comes from. All right, and as you can see, I have a million subtools now with all these different branches and stuff. We're gonna begin the actual sculpting of this, and I don't wanna bog it down too much because this is very strong as it is. There's two main things I wanna capture here. One, I wanna add this burl-like texture, which is kind of like this bulbous like knots. And I also would like to decorate the mound it's sitting on a little bit better and maybe embed some large rocks. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. First, I got a text. I'm pretty sure it's just from Woobles telling me about new deals. Yep, it is, okay. I don't normally subscribe to text messages about ads, but I'm really into crocheting right now, so anyway. Let's get started. I'm gonna detail this from the bottom up. Make that really simple. We've got 27 minutes on the clock. Let's go. I have this rock brush here, which is pretty nice. It's a little over detailed for what actually show up on 3D printing, but I like it quite a bit still. Let me see what shape I want. I like this one. How's the bottom look? Good enough? All right, so I have this rock in here. We're gonna flatten up the bottom. It's also very high poly, and we don't need that. And some of these cracks here aren't very detailed. So let's run over with the damp standard brush and add some more confident chipping to this. I might even want to do this with the trim dynamic brush. Yeah. I can go under geometry and clay polish. There we go. Those are forms that are actually going to 3D print. And then we can add some cracks. I actually have a really nice brush that I love. It's called Orb something. It's in the style of like, I think World of Warcraft. One of the artists shared some of the brushes that he made when working on those assets. What a nice guy. Or woman, I have no idea. All right, where is that crack brush, or is it slash? I think it's cracks. Yep, excellent. So this is a custom brush that I did not make, but it's not an insert mesh brush. It's just kind of like a better damp standard. But it also depends what you're using it for. Like, obviously I don't have this loaded in all the time. So saying it's a better damp standard is a little inaccurate. All right, just putting some nice big cracks in this just so they're gonna be nice paint catchers. And then there's other awesome one called Orb Flatten Edge. And this one works fantastic. This one is a better trim dynamic if you're trying to get a hard surface. If you go to Google and type in Orb Brush Pack ZBrush, this will come up. It's pretty awesome. If you don't want to be bothered doing that, you can just ask me and I will find it and link it in the description. It'll take me like 2 seconds. All right, we have a rock. Let's decimate it. It does not need to be 200,000 points. Let's try 5,000. There we go, looks exactly the same. All right, let's get a nice gray color in here. It's not gonna wanna be a gray color because I have a matte cap on here. So I'm probably gonna have to change the material just for this one piece. There we go. Where in the world is the mound it was sitting on? Did I like delete that in the process of doing this? I guess so. Let's undo. There we go, there it is. Now I have both pieces again. I'm really happy with the tree here. I really like my models to have as much different types of textures as well for contrast. So since it's a tree, obviously it's just going to be wood and bark textures. But the way that I'm kind of overcoming that to make it a more interesting model is adding this like mossy dirt mound it's sitting on and some rocks. So then there's some more texture on it. All right, gonna add one more rock. And we'll probably be all set in that department. Like everything, I like it to be stacked and layered, so I want to add at least one more rock kind of sitting on top of this one. It just makes things look better. Everything in 2s and 3s. Excellent. All right, let's go ahead and merge all these rocks down so they're kind of out of the way. And that's the last element that's getting added to this model. Where in the world did that come from? Delete. All right, let's go ahead and texture this mossy base that it's sitting on. 2 things here. I want to make sure that's perfectly flat, so I'm going to mask the bottom of it. Looks good. Stretch straight down and clip. I'm going to do that with the trim rectangle brush. Excellent. And I can go ahead and smooth that edge manually too. Sweet. I'm gonna go ahead and throw another stamp up on the screen here because it's possible that after I'm done detailing this, the stream's gonna be done. So I need to have a little bit more going on in my storyboard here. Looks good. All right, to detail this, I'm already pretty happy with the secondary forms that have like some small lumps and variations in this. So to add some finer detail to it, I'm going to subdivide a few times to make sure there's enough polys there to take in more detail. I'm going to go in with my damn standard brush, change the alpha to one of these dot smeary looking alphas, and then change it to drag rectangle. There you go, look how nice that is. This is just one of the defaults in ZBrush. I'm gonna have back face mask turned on to make sure that I don't have any deformation through the other side of the mesh. All right, let's go ahead and add this in. I'm gonna be breaking one of my rules here because I'm gonna be essentially kind of just blanketing this bottom mound it's sitting on in this texture. I don't normally do that. There still will be variations though. Like I'm gonna have a high detail area on the right and the left. And then I kind of blend them in together with a smaller, less strong alpha. So let's decrease that Z intensity, increase the focal shift to improve the blend on the edges. And now we're gonna add just kind of like a small blend here. Never just take the same alpha and exactly blanket it everywhere. You still want to vary it up. That even goes for like dragon scales. I see a lot of my students, the first time they sculpt a dragon, they make one scale and they cover the entire dragon in the exact same scale, the exact same size, and it looks like an eyesore, and they're like, why does it look bad? And I'm like, your eye has nowhere to go. Some people say like there's nowhere for the eye to rest. It's not even so much that, it's just everything looks exactly the same. You want to add some variation. All right, so that's the mound it's sitting on, looking pretty good. I think I could have done a better job with the secondary forms. I could have actually bulked them up a bit better. I'm not going to worry about repairing that right now. I'm just going to note that for myself in the future as I continue sculpting and improving. All right, looks pretty good. We can dress up the poly paint a little better though. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna turn on back face mask. It's gonna kind of give me this like fake ambient occlusion. So here's the before and after. It's pretty subtle, but it's pretty neat. I love using that trick. And I'm gonna darken up any areas that are close to the tree to give that diseased shadow look. Very nice. I'm also going to make the entire mound a bit smaller. Very good. All right, I want to keep my poly paint, so I'm going to go under Z plugin, Decimation Master. Make sure I have Use and Keep Poly Paint turned on. Now I can go over here and bring this down to probably, I'd say 55,000 points. It's currently at 200,000 points, which is way more than it needs. So here's the before and after. Looks darn near the same. There is still some deformation and pixel like texture to it. So I'm actually gonna subdivide one more time and then decimate it. So it's coming from 800,000 points now down to 55, and it'll actually end up looking cleaner than before. There we are, very nice. This is going to be a really nice piece of scatter terrain. All right, I'm going to go ahead and merge the base down with the rocks. I'm just kind of moving things out of the way as I'm finished with them. If you guys have any questions on what's going on, if you're new and lurking, if you have questions on who I am and why I'm doing this, feel free to ask. If not, I'm going to assume you guys know. I'm going to keep working. All right, got 16 minutes on the clock, looking good. Chris is here. Hello, I'm pretty sure you've been here before, so tentative welcome back. Good evening to all. We're working on a spooky tree today. It's from the scary story, The Dead Hand, so I've made it look like a hand, actually. Really just so thrilled with this model so far. All right, so when I'm detailing, I'm gonna make sure I detail the primary forms first. So I'm gonna be dealing with the trunk here, and I'm gonna be really closely looking at my reference here on the left that I'm circling. Kind of getting that bulbous texture. So really, I'm kind of running through my primary, secondary, tertiary forms all over again, just per subtool. So yeah, let's get started. The first thing I'm gonna do is kind of evaluate what the space mesh looks like. We have some stretching, nothing too bad. So I can probably just subdivide right where we're at. Yep, we're only at 3,000 points, so you can definitely afford to move up. I'm gonna subdivide twice, bring us to 50,000 points, and I'm gonna drop a hard save, just so I don't invoke the ZBrush wrath. All right, looks good. All right, I'm gonna come in with my standard brush, and lazy radius, and just kind of at a high Z intensity, really thoughtfully think about where I'm adding these lines and texture. I want to be careful not to over texture this, because if I do, it's going to make these nice roots that I have completely blend in, and we don't want that. I really do want these roots to stand off the model in a clear way. As of right now, this model will 3D print on resin and FDM with 0 support, so I want to try to keep it that way. As we move upwards, we'll definitely need to make these branches a little bit thicker, but not by much. They're already pretty good for 3D printing. All right, we can improve the curve here a bit. And then anywhere I have a chance to remove volume, I'm gonna do that on this tree. It's almost gonna give the tree like an emaciated, spooky look. All right, that looks pretty good. Again, removing a little bit more volume. I'm removing the volume very quickly by just holding Option on my keyboard while using the same brush. So it's not 2 different brushes. I'm only using 1 brush this entire time. If I do a stroke I really like, and if I press number 1 on my keyboard right after, it will actually repeat the stroke. So you'll see that happen quite a lot as I sculpt these forms. Looks good. All right, I have some of that texture on here, and now I'm gonna go through and start adding a few of these burls. And to do that, I'm not really sure how to do that. So I have a couple different techniques in mind to use. I'm gonna try first with the standard brush. And this would be a good spot for one of those burls. I'm gonna smooth the area, and I'm just gonna kind of scribble on in with the standard brush. That worked pretty good. So these knots here aren't perfectly spherical. They actually have like their own little mini hierarchy of forms just in each burl. So this is kind of the primary one, and now we're gonna add some asymmetrical details on it. I also thought that this would be the best burl for putting a face in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and block that out. I don't want it to be super obvious. I want it to be kind of like a fun detail. Like if someone notices this tree looks like a hand, maybe they'll spot this face in there too. This big lumpy nose is making it look friendly, so let's go ahead and put a hole in there instead to make it look more skeletal. Again, we want it to be more on the subtle side and tortured. So we're gonna kind of squish one side down and curve everything up. My voice is so raspy today, I don't know why. Alrighty. That's so creepy and gross. It looks like the face is pulling out of the tree a little bit more than I was intending, but it's still a more subtle detail. He looks a little friendly. How did I make you look more tortured than you already do? I'm gonna make you look mad. Might need to structure this a little more intentionally than I thought. The lack of the cheekbone there is making this read a little unclear. I figured if I just tried to sculpt a literal skull in here, it would be too obvious, but it might need that. Oh, also having the nose so close upwards is actually giving it baby proportions. That's why I'm like, why does it look kind of cute? Now I know why. Okay, I know how to fix that. I have sculpted a lot of baby monsters, so I'm pretty tuned in to what makes something look cute or not. There we go, that's better. I'm gonna reset my damp sander brush here, add a lazy radius to it. Instead of adding a bunch of volume, I think I'm gonna start carving more out to achieve the same effect. So you'll notice that when I'm kind of finding forms like this, I'm not afraid to totally smooth over what I just did and go in again with a more confident hand. It's almost always better to just kind of clear your plate, so to speak, and come at it again with more confident forms. Otherwise, you kind of just end up with a really overworked looking piece. There we go. That's more of that tortured face I was wanting. There we go. They just look like they're at peace. Yep. Just having a day. And from the front, I mean, it's not even super apparent what's going on there. It's like not until you rotate the model that you see this very obviously screaming face. So, just a cute little detail. There we are. Very happy with that face. Probably stretch it even further down the model. And I want there to be some asymmetry. As of right now, the eyes are on the same plane. I don't want that. So let's stretch one side of the face up and smooth the other side down. How nice is that? I love it. All right, looking good. I don't really know how to texture the top. That works. So I'm not having as much room as I thought I would to make all these different burls, but the tree looks pretty good without them, so I won't stress about it. They're added a couple on the back that look good. Add another one right here. That'd be another good spot for a face, but again, I don't want it covered in faces. I want that to be like a disturbing detail that only someone with a discerning eye is gonna find. I don't want it to be super obvious. It's pretty obvious, but it's not like the first thing you see. So now I'm kind of quickly running over this secondary part of the trunk and running in more of these lines here with a standard brush, building up some more volume, taking away volume. I'm not really looking at any close references for this. I'm just kind of doing what complements the model best. This is definitely the best tree I've ever sculpted, which feels good. Feels good to be improving. It's been a really, really good year as far as artistic improvement goes. Sometimes you just kind of plateau. It's not really a big deal. You don't have to always be improving, you know? All right, looking really good. And what I love about this is, like, if you look at this, my secondary stage here, so we have our block out, secondary forms, and now we're detailing. So look at stage 2 versus stage 3. If you squint, they don't really look that different. But if you look for more, you get to find more when you look at the detailed version, which is very, very important. Again, your tertiary forms, just your high detail, like all the rivets on the tree trunk and stuff, that's not what makes the model. That's what people always point to detailed work and art to be like, ooh, that looks really good. But really, that's just complementing the really strong structure that's already there. And it sounds like a really pedantic detail. Again, if you're appreciating art, you give your compliments however you want. If you're studying art and looking to make your own, it's really important to know the difference that building a strong foundation is everything. All right, so now I'm going to merge together the branches and whatever they have forking off of them. I'm gonna merge those down and then Dynamesh them together. And Dynameshing will make this the same mesh. As of now, if I smooth, it affects each of them kind of separately and it doesn't blend. I see we have a pretty good amount of traffic and viewers hanging out here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I really enjoy just sitting here and kind of chattering as I sculpt away, have a good time. It's relaxing for me and I hope it's relaxing for you guys too. I also really appreciate it. It looks like almost all of you have taken the time just to like the live stream. It's such a silly little thing, but it really helps. If you're having a really good time, reminder to subscribe and then YouTube will tell you when I stream. I have a very consistent live stream schedule though. I stream every day except for Tuesday, Wednesday. And that includes weekends. Oh man, that is so pretty. All right, so this is a good time to look up really quick. So I just added this streak right here. Isn't that just such a nice continuous line that's coming up on this model? Oh, it's so pretty. I really, really like that. Oh, and I can see when you guys leave like little like emojis and stuff, like someone just put a bunch of like confetti. Like it's very cute. I see it out of the corner of my eye. There's a 50-50 chance it's my husband. He does that. He always has my stream up when he works in the loft. And I know he comes through and just spams that every now and then. Alrighty. So adding this root texture right here through the branches is really interesting paint detail, but it's also adding more volume. And these branches are the only thing that will be a little when 3D printing. They'll be fine, But if I can get away with adding more volume, this is a good place to do it. Like this intersection point right here where these two branches are meeting, that's a really good spot to add a bunch of volume because it's not going to affect the silhouette of the model. It's just going to make it stronger when 3D printed, so I might as well add some nice bit of volume there. So usually when I sculpt trees, before I kind of leveled up sculpting wise, I heavily relied on one alpha to detail the whole thing, and I haven't used it once yet. So I'm really excited to go through this model at the end with this alpha right here. And then check that out. See what a nice like light detailing that adds? Here, I'll zoom in a lot. So that's the before, after. I'll just keep going back and forth for a little bit here. That's how I used to rely on designing my trees. It feels really good that I'm able to get such an interesting look without having to rely on that. We kind of breezed through that first 30 minutes, so I need another 30 minutes to detail. So I have a fresh 30 minutes on the clock. Let's get going. This has definitely been a more quiet live stream, and I kind of like those too. Don't get me wrong, I love answering you guys' questions, but Thursday is now my new beginning of the work week. This is my Monday, so it's kind of nice to have a quiet one. And again, I'm kind of pulling double shifts right now to get through my live streams and to finish projects I have on the side. So it's kind of nice to not, I'm getting better at not being on when I live stream. If that makes sense to you guys. If you're really extroverted, that might not make sense to you, but my introverts know what I'm talking about. Where doing anything social, and this does count as social to me, because even though I can't see you guys, to me the room might as well be full. But anyway, it's nice to kind of like settle in, focus on my live streaming, and not feel like I need to entertain, or I guess like what I'm doing right now is enough, and that feels really nice. And to be clear, it's funny because I love having people over and I love to host, but oh my goodness, the second the last guest walks out that door, I am in bed every time. Lights off, asleep. It is very, very draining for me, even though I do enjoy it sparingly. I cannot believe how nicely this model's come together. I'm so proud of this model, because trees were definitely one of those things I really struggled with, and I haven't sculpted one in a long time. Somewhat earlier this year, might have been the end of last year, I did a scatter terrain project, and I did a couple new trees, but instead of sculpting them from scratch, I kind of just like kit bashed the ones I had already made over the years. And looking back, I kind of wish I had a little bit more confidence in myself to just do it from scratch, because like I had the skills, but I didn't know that. There's something that's so relaxing about sculpting a tree too. I like how spooky this is, but I wouldn't mind maybe doing another stream where I sculpt one that's beautiful and extravagant, you know? I mean, I guess other than the screaming face in it, I think it's a pretty tree still. Oh, I missed some of the chat here. Voxel says, I was going nonstop, and now I'm relaxing by scrolling Blue Sky. Yeah, isn't that like a new social media or something? I haven't looked at it yet. Chris says, outside of working hours, I'm super introverted. I get that. Yeah. And it's funny when people meet me, they're always like, oh, you're so bubbly and you're so like this and that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a good talker. Doesn't mean that I have very many spoons. I find 90% of being a good conversationalist is just asking questions and showing interest in the person that you're talking to. I hope, this is what's weird about talking about yourself on the internet, because like I upload this afterwards and I'm not worried about anyone seeing it, but I am. It's not a super nice sentiment, but I played D&D a few times in different groups, and there was a group that I played with, and it was just incredible, like how these people just they were not great conversationalists, and they just did not ask questions. Like, I do this for a living, and I did mention that a few times, and they were just like, they didn't even understand what I did for a living, and they never even asked questions. And I remember how that made me feel, and I was like, it's not that I want to be the center of attention, it feels good when people show interest in you, you know? And I remember like I would have one-on-ones with them, and I kind of talk to them, and I'd ask all these questions about their life because I was interested. And they just never reciprocated. It was so weird. And like, as I've gotten older, I've found that's like it's a huge sign of maturity. When I talk to people that are really emotionally immature, they are like incapable of asking questions outside of themselves, which can be really tiring to spend time with people like that. Because I found even people that are really, really shy, they'll still ask questions or at least show interest, like their eyes kind of brighten up when we talk about things that they're interested in. I totally get if people aren't interested in asking me about like my art as a living, especially if they don't play D&D or have an interest in that kind of thing. But this was my D&D group. I know they're interested in this stuff. It was odd. It was just really, really odd. Looking back though, it's very possible maybe I was coming across a little like standoffish, you know? So it could go both ways. There, you know, anything that deals with people, there's like 10 different sides to the story, you know? And I've learned as I've gotten older, I'm usually missing a few sides of the story, and that's totally okay. Oh, this is looking so good. Voxel says, it's the one content creators are flocking to since Twitter is feeding your art into AI. That makes sense. Hasn't there been, I feel like there's always a new social media popping up every year that everyone flocks to and then goes away. There was another one just earlier this year. Maybe this one will stick. There we go. We're getting some kind of funky shapes on these branches, but since it is a spooky tree, it's working for the model, but I'm aware I was sculpting a pretty elegant tree. I would need to fix some of this. Like, see how weird and wonky that shape is? Like, that's not a tree branch shape. But in this specific application, I like it, and more volume is more, especially to make this FDM friendly. We're making our way up these branches though. Almost done. Not sure how much more secondary forms I need here, so I'll probably just pay a little bit more attention to the way that it's weaving into the trunk, and then I can kind of go over it with that detailed alpha I've been using. And then seizing any opportunities where I can add more volume, like right there. There we are. Excellent. That so looks like a finger. Cool, I like it. Voxel says there's been 15 million users added per week. It seems. Yeah, we'll see. Very cool though. Oh, I know Miguel was telling me about it. He mentioned if I joined, he'd share my stuff. He's always sweet, very supportive. All right, got 20 minutes left on the clock here to finish up this detailing. I think we're gonna hit it, the target this time. 30 minutes to do all of it was a little ambitious. I more so want to make sure that I was making good progress more than anything. Very good. This model is going to paint up really, really well. There's a lot of areas they're going to hold paint and detail. Beautiful. I think this is the first time that I've had someone request scatterterrain on my request board too. I would like to do more of this. I honestly think some of my best models have been scatterterrain. Gosh, that's looking so nice. We're almost done. This is a really, really good day to hang out and lurk on stream. Once I have this post process, I'll be sharing the 3D printable files for this for free, and you should be able to just plop this on your 3D printer, no supports or anything, and just print, and it should work. If you're watching in the future, this is no longer free, but you can get this model plus 800 more on Patreon. I'm trying to think of anything else I want to do with this, because I'm really getting close to finishing. No, I'm pretty happy with it. All right, let's keep on trucking along. I will save again though. Here we are. Oh hey, John's back. Hello. We're sculpting a spooky tree today. A little different than the normal characters I do. I was just talking about that actually. I usually, it's pretty rare that I get requests for scatterterrain. I don't think I've ever gotten a request for scatterterrain on my new request board. But I've only been doing the request board since May, so it's relatively new compared to how long I've been doing this. Looks good. And then John said, how'd that double head print turn out? I think it's printing right now, so I don't know. I usually do them in batches. So the my new work week does start on Thursdays. So everything from last week is printing now. Very good question though. When I get that printed, I'll make sure to have it on my desk. So when it's done, and if you ask about it again, I'll actually have it here to show it to you. Yeah, John last joined on a stream from last week, and I was sculpting this like a ghoul goblin looking thing, and I accidentally mirror and welded it so it had two heads instead, and it looks so good. I actually made a whole new version of the model. just with that. Happy little accident. Alright, so on these thinner pieces here, it's really important that I add some volume here, but again, I'm really happy with this model for a lot of reasons, but it's going to be completely support free when printed, which makes me very, very happy. John says, ooh, a mystery for now then. Yes, mystery for now, but not for long. Just a couple more days. I appreciate you asking though. I always like when people are paying attention and ask follow-up questions between streams. I think it's really cool. This tree looks so cool. Again, I always print my models to make sure they test print, and more than that, I like to make sure I test the pre-supported files before I share them on Patreon. Again, if people are giving me money every month, I want to make sure that it's good stuff, right? What better way than to print it yourself? That being said, some of these models I just want for myself anyway. I definitely think this is going to be a nice one to have on my desk and a really fun one to paint. It kind of feels good to start the work week off with a stream where I sculpt from scratch too. So if you guys clicked at the beginning of this stream, you'll see that this started off with just a sphere. Pretty cool one. Alright, I love these little fingernails I had on there. Let me make sure I like the... Yeah, I like that little detail a lot. Keeping it. We're going to add a crease to it. Subdivide a bunch of times. And just add a little bit of texture. There we go, check this out. So my favorite thing about this model is just the overall shape. However, I am just really jazzed about this little face I have snuck in here. All right, let's go ahead and spin the model around really quick, make sure I didn't miss any areas of detail. Man, it has all these like overlapping roots and they look like vines almost. Very cool. Yep, really happy with this. gonna go ahead and screenshot this so I have like a nice little splash page. And then I'm going to make sure I do a couple stamps here so I can show off the fact that this tree actually looks like a hand. All right, got one there. And then one. Right there. Sweet. Kat says, I like the model. I like that poly paint. Damn, I like it so much. Thank you so much. Again, the key when you're designing scatter terrain is to put as much love and thought into the backstory as you would with like a character or a creature. So I knew if it was just the tree, it wouldn't read as well as if I had like this mound it was sitting on and the rocks. It all helps add that story, you know? Also, trees just naturally have so much like soul to them. It's pretty easy to imagine. Oh, someone new is here. I will call you Scent. Hello. Dang, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Come right to the stream with something really nice. I appreciate that. Yeah, so usually I use more of my asset library in base meshes, but in this case, this was a from scratch model. So if you go to the beginning of the live stream, you can see it happen. Ooh, I have a question. Scent says, would you recommend this program for a total beginner? Yes, but only if you have a teacher. So I teach. That's why I'm talking like that. ZBrush is a lot. I would really recommend ZBrush Core Mini to play around with first, and that's free. I'm gonna put that in the chat. Yeah, ZBrush Core Mini to play around with, it's free. It doesn't have the same UI. And then if you did want to learn ZBrush, you can actually buy ZBrush Core, not Core Mini, just ZBrush Core. Maxon doesn't advertise it on their website. You have to Google it. But anyway, ZBrush Core is only $10 a month, while ZBrush is $40, which is, I don't know your financial situation, but that could be a lot. That's a pretty expensive subscription. But if you wanted help, I have a link at the top of the chat that says I want to teach you how to sculpt, and then that link there will bring you to my mentorship program. And yeah, I walk you through step by step. 90% of my students, or is it 87? Almost 90% of my students were brand new beginners, and 3 of them have actually taken their art full time. So yeah, if you have more questions about that, let me know. I'm gonna move on to post-processing this, and if y'all have a 3D printer, I'll be sharing these files with you guys for free. If you're watching in the future, oop, it's a red pen. It's no longer free, but you can get them on Patreon. This is why I have to buy nice things, because I've heard things. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get this pulled up in Mesh Mixer. But before I do that, I need to post-process. Oh, also kind of a cool little note for y'all. This is really early on. This is this lumpy tree we kind of started with. And this is where we are now. Let's do a little side by side, yeah? Here's the before. And here is where we are currently. I'm really happy with this model. Oh, Taylor's back. Hello. Popping in and off the stream. Whenever I return, it's so much more detailed. Yeah, I've been ripping through this one. Also, I don't know if you saw this, I put a face on it. It's got a little screaming face in it. You know, just to give that nice, cozy, lumping willow feel to it. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me while I sculpt. This has been a really, really chill live stream, and just having a really good time with you guys. If you like the stream, like it really helps. And if you really like it, subscribe. I stream very consistently, but it's always best just to have YouTube take care of that for you. Because I have a lot of creators that I follow, and there's no way I can remember even half of their schedules. Alrighty, let's go ahead and merge and get this all ready for printing. This is a pretty simple model as far as like construction goes, so I should be able to remesh it at once. We'll see. That's a much more clear before and after. I'm gonna go ahead and screenshot this one more time. Very good, okay. If I check the mesh integrity, there's only 2 faces that have any distortion on them, so I can fix that. Whenever you use Boolean operations, it will distort your poly paint. This is gonna be 3D printed, so the poly paint doesn't matter at all. I just do that for fun. I did it on a stream a while ago and y'all loved it, so now I paint my models every time I stream, and I really enjoy it too. I know I talk about it most streams, but I bring it up because it matters to me a lot. I've been really surprised with how much live streaming has kind of like brought some of my love for art back to me. I didn't realize I had lost any of it. I thought I was doing just fine. But now that I'm live streaming, it causes me to work slower and more thoughtfully. And yeah, it kind of just, it's just awesome. And then Sent asks, are you printing with a resin printer or filament? Very good question. I do both. So I have resin for my minis, and then I have FDM to print my stuff really big. I have the, here, let me make my face bigger so you guys can see this. One moment. Ah, I'm moving my whole head. There we go. So yeah, I also print stuff really big. This is a character I sculpted as well. And then this is not painted. This is actually done with multicolor filament. So yeah. But my models are designed for either. Obviously, if you're printing some of my really fragile stuff, like for example, I have this unicorn right here. I have printed this on FDM before, but this would be more challenging, and as a rule of thumb, it's easier to scale things up a little bit when you're printing minis on FDM. And then Sent says, in all caps, so cool. I appreciate that, thank you, I can feel the enthusiasm. Corey says, I love your big prints. I have another one, I'll show it to you guys. I need to have Ricky print more of these. That's my husband, we both do this together. This is my sword rising from flames. There's something about printing them big that is just so fun and so cool. So yeah, honey, if you're watching, we need more big prints, they're cool. And then if I start doing more of these big prints, I can actually share the color painted versions with you, because I know a few of you guys have multicolor filament printers as well. So yeah, these were all printed with a Bamboo Lab for FDM. It's a Bamboo Lab X1 carbon, and then a Lego for my resin. So a Lego Saturn S. So yeah. But I really love what I do, and I actually don't play any in-game D&D games right now. But part of the reason for that is because I moved across the country, but more of that is because I am deeply introverted. Also, our DM moved to Indiana. So when I was living in California, that was very far. I live in Tennessee now, so he's only an 8-hour drive away, but look, I like D&D, I don't like it enough to drive 8 hours for a game. Like, Taylor says, what is the benefit of your merchant tier on Patreon? That's a good question. So I actually have people that print my stuff at home. So like models like this, grabbing a bunch of them. So they'll print these and then they actually sell them on Etsy physically. So you can't sell my files, but if you want to print my stuff and sell it, you can. I have 890 files right now that you can print and sell. And I have quite a few merchants that make pretty good money. To me, anything more than $500 a month is pretty good money. But yeah, I have some merchants that are doing very well for themselves. I had one merchant that I know is making more than $1,000 a month because he would print my stuff in resin and then they would cast it in metal. So they would sell my models as bronze sculptures. So yeah, pretty cool. And yeah, Pat clarifies you can sell the prints. Yep. I don't usually offer mold rights. I only have one merchant right now that I have negotiated injection mold rights, and they actually sell box sets of my stuff. So yeah, when they have more of their products out, I'll let you guys know, because if you don't have a 3D printer but you want my models, that would be really great. I don't see that money like royalties wise. I just had them pay me like a one-time fee. But I would love for you guys to support my merchants as well, because they're all like really good people. They've all been really, really good to me and easy to work with. All right. Decimating this down. A lot of really good questions. I think I can bring this down to 200. And then Taylor says, that's a good tier idea. Oh, was it something that I said and just completely missed? Oh, maybe for injection molds? Yeah, I don't have a tier for that. Just the tier to sell the prints. All right, I'm gonna trim the bottom of this. Ooh, that did a really bad job trimming. Wow, ZBrush. Look at that topology. Yeah. Maybe you don't get to make that decision, ZBrush. I'm just gonna do that myself. Here we go. I was like, nobody wants that. Bad topology doesn't necessarily make for a bad 3D print, but you end up with more mesh errors usually, which can cause holes and problems. For the most part, your model has to be pretty screwed up to actually have 3D printing issues. It pretty much just has to be like not solid. But as long as you have a solid mesh and nothing is too thin, you're on your way to having a very good 3D print. Oh, Bill's here. Hey, welcome back. Bill says, good afternoon all. I'm late today. Yeah, I'm actually almost done. I've been ripping through today's stream. So today I made this spooky tree. It's based on the short story, The Dead Hand by Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and especially inspired by this art by Stephen Gamble. So yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, this is a beautiful model, and this will print completely support free. So if you guys want, I'm gonna share the file for free in just a moment here. You guys can download this and throw it straight on your 3D printer and you'll be good to go. In case you're wondering how I know it's support free just by looking at it, well, there's no steep overhangs. That's pretty much it. You get an eye for it the longer you look at it. Taylor said, subscribe to your Patreon. As legendary, the tier name speaks for itself, guys. Aw, thank you so much, Taylor. I really appreciate that. That, in addition to this project, I'm super excited to work with you on. Like, thank you. Also, put in a request. Like, that's so cool. Like, now I can specifically make stuff that you request. That'd be awesome. And then, especially, oh my gosh, you guys have such good ideas. Now, when you actually, like, suggest, hey, maybe you should do this to the model, I can actually do it because you are the requester. So that'd be so cool. Bill says, looking cool. I've been making some terrain myself. Oh, fun, fun. And then in case you guys are wondering specifically what Taylor's talking about, because I actually don't have this one linked. I have my mentorship one linked, but I don't have my Patreon linked. There's two. But there it is. If you guys wanted to know exactly what they're talking about, like the merchant tier and stuff, that's what they're talking about. The big perk of it is, one, 3D printable files, but if you want to determine what I sculpt on stream, that's how you do it. I have a request board, and that's where I get this stuff from. Speaking of the request board, I can actually show it to you guys. Here is my live request board. So yeah, check this out. And this is where my schedule is at as well. So tomorrow we're sculpting a detective. And I'm really excited about this one because he's gonna print this detective and he's gonna give it out as presents at work. So I'm assuming he works at a precinct. Very cool. And then I have a draconian slad. And then I also have a skeleton dragon. I'm actually giving myself 2 different live stream days to get that one done. That will be a lot of work. But yeah, this is what I have lined up for y'all. All right, let's get this in a mesh mixer so I can share this file with y'all before I get too distracted. So usually I will put this model into an NZPR so I can check on the proportions and size. But in this case, there's no base I put it on. I'm just gonna put it next to this mini here. He's 28mm scale already. And I'm gonna just kind of eyeball it. So by default, it's super tiny. So let's go ahead and flip it to have the correct orientation. And let's make it much, much larger. That's still too small. There we are. Let's make sure there's no mesh errors as well. Ooh, it's sparkly clean. No mesh errors today. I like it. All right, so 75mm is roughly 3 inches. I live in the United States, so I work with Freedom units. No, just kidding, just Imperial units, which no one else uses. All right. This man is about 6 feet tall, and I don't mind if this model is quite large because it's scattered terrain, and this model especially is supposed to be kind of a centerpiece of sorts almost. Just giving it a double check, making sure there's no problems with this. Gosh, what a pretty model. Okay. All right, currently it's 100mm tall, which I think would be about 4 inches, which this model here is about 2.5 inches. So this tree will be like this big. That sounds about right. I want it to be looming. Also a reminder, any file you get off the internet to 3D print, you can make it smaller or bigger. If you make it too small, it might have thin elements and be an issue, but you can change the size however you want. Pat says, so how do you measure a miniature in gallons? Go away. I know our measuring system sucks. All right. Okay, it's not a willow tree. What the heck do I call this? I can't call it a haunted willow. Just haunted tree? I think I already have one of those. Or is it creepy tree? All right, we're just gonna call it haunted tree for now. I'm uploading it to Google Drive right now, and I'll be sharing that link with y'all in just a second. Alrighty. Ghoulish tree. Yeah, that's better than haunted tree. Okay, I'm gonna share the file with y'all. You can name it whatever you want, but I think I might like ghoulish tree, and I can release this around the same time as my ghouls I just did. Oh, they'd be like a nice little set. Oh, I like that. I like that. Ghoul wood, another good one. Pat says, at this point we have over 800 minis. Naming them must be an absolute nightmare. Yes. Yes, it is. It's the fucking worst. Like, because I make a bunch of like elves, like fighters. So like a lot of my models I have named like female elven fighter, but I never list when it's a male. It just assumed, I guess. And it feels very silly of me to put that, but like it's the only way to have distinct names. And I don't want to be too creative or artistic sounding in the name because it needs to be searchable, you know? Anyway, let me give that link to y'all. If you just joined the stream and you have a 3D printer, you're in for a treat. Free download. All right, free download, and yeah, of course, thanks for being here. Oh, Pat, you're on a roll. Between you and Taylor's, you're good at Ghoulwood, Wraithwood, and Witherwood. Ooh, I like Witherwood a lot. Witherwood. I like it. And it withers people. Yeah, we're getting a small little uptick in viewers, people hanging out. I just put a link in the chat here that will allow you to 3D print this model for free. Usually you need a pre-supported file, which if you're not familiar, it's just like a bunch of like structural things that you take off the print afterwards, but to make sure that you don't have any flat spots. This model does not need supports to print, and this will be friendly for FDM and for resin. If you're concerned about thin elements, Just scale it up. Just make it bigger. And yeah, Scent says, woo, free download. For me, it's free wood. Good, I'm glad you guys are liking the, Taylor says, looks like a hag hand. It really does. I'm so happy it looks like a hand. Corey says, yeah, you probably don't want soul-sucking tree of nightmares. Yeah, I like the name, but it's not very searchable. Oh, she says wither root. Ooh, I like that too. That's reminding me of Witherfang. What is Witherfang from? Is that Baldur's Gate or is that Dragon Age Origins? That's Dragon Age Origins. I just replayed that game, so it's like in my brain. If you haven't played Dragon Age Origins, you should. You should. I'm totally not biased. It's totally not my favorite series of all time. As of now, I just have it labeled Haunted Tree. You guys are giving me much better names than Haunted Tree. As long as it says tree in the name, it's searchable. So I can literally call it like a Witherwood tree. I like that. I'm gonna rename it right now. Witherroot tree, that'd be cool. I like Ghoulwood too still. I'm not calling it Freewood. Thank you guys for being here. Again, if you like the stream, like it. If you really liked it, subscribe. Pat says, printable scenery creates some really cool trees that were dinosaurs. Have you seen them? No, but that sounds freaking awesome. If you guys have a 3D printer and if you're not familiar with printable scenery, you have to be. They're like the go-to for terrain. They're awesome. Yeah, overall it's kind of a short and sweet stream, yeah? I think we did a pretty nice collaboration of all of my references. And again, the description and the vibe I was trying to get to was skeletons of giant trees, snags, the people called them, rose up out of the muck, their dead branches reaching out like long twisted arms. I think I nailed it. And then Scent says, I subbed. Thank you. I didn't see it pop up. Boo. But it popped up on the screen and it would have been like with little flames and stuff, so I like, thank you. So my goal is to have all my streams around 3 hours. That's kind of my new goal here. I find that a 3-hour stream allows me to get all my work done outside of the stream as well. And then someone is spamming more confetti, which I love. That the fact that it does, like, I don't know. I just think it's so cute. And then Pat continuing on open scenery, or not open scenery. How am I already forgetting the name? Printable scenery. They mentioned creators of open lock, no less. And then Taylor being very sweet, reminding everyone to like the stream. It was already a really great stream. Thank you guys so much. And thank you again, Taylor, for subscribing on Patreon. Again, subbing on YouTube is great, but subscribing on Patreon literally pays for like my bills and keeps the lights on and makes lots of art happen. So both are super appreciated, but can't understate the importance of Patreon. So thank you. All right, that kind of wraps up the stream, y'all. I'll be back tomorrow, and tomorrow I'll be sculpting a detective. Where's the description on that? All right, this is from Pete. Pete says, how about a detective inspired by classic Sherlock Holmes imagery, cat, pipe, and all? Bonus points if you can somehow incorporate a fingerprint somewhere. I guess giants would also have bridge detail. So yeah, these are some of the references that I got, and that's what I'll be doing tomorrow. And then Pat says, I hope to be at almost all the streams, as long as work allows it. If not, I'll watch them later. Night owl, you know? Yeah. Pat's referring to, in my Discord, I have a question of the day. But it's really a question of the every 3 days. I don't do it every day. But anyway, I recently asked my Discord whether you're a night owl or a morning person. I did always wanted to be a morning person because most of the things that I do outside of work are very morning related. Like this morning, my farrier came out. A farrier is someone who works on horse hooves. I have a horse and they have to get their feet trimmed every 6 to 8 weeks. Anyway, but he comes out at like 8 in the morning, which is very early to me. Everything dealing with a horse or livestock, oh my God, my vet wants to be here at like 6 in the morning. And I'm like, okay. So it's rough. It is what it is. And then then let's see. Pat says, oh, I'm gonna miss the detective. I work all day tomorrow. No worry, I'll have the stream uploaded. And then Sent just said, Discord, did you want an invite? I can put an invite in here. Again, technically my Discord is patrons only, but I literally own the Discord, so I can do whatever I want with it. If y'all want to be in my Discord, let me know. I'll put an invite in. So yeah. And now I have to wait 20 seconds. So everything that I say is technically 20 seconds like in the future, but by the time that you guys see it actually live, there's a small disconnect. So if it ever seems like I'm taking a long time to respond to the live chat, that's why. And then Pat says, my cats wake me up at 6 a.m. every day for breakfast. Oh my goodness. And then Sat said, I'd love to. Well, of course, allow me. All right, this is a free thing as well. If you guys aren't familiar with Discord, it's pretty much like a big chat room. I don't know what to call it. Anyway. And then Sent mentioned on Twitch, put an exclamation point for something as a command. Oh, that'd be so nifty if you guys could put that and it would just, I guess I am the command. So, there you go. There's a Discord invite. Come hang out. And then Pat says, I think I prefer the horse. Yeah, he's not very noisy. Like, horses aren't like horses in the movies where they're like constantly like yelling and like neighing. They don't really do that. Mine's actually weirdly vocal. He's the most vocal horse I've ever been around. If he ever sees me, he's yelling about something. But that's not normal. There's nothing wrong with him. He's just special. I'll show you guys a picture. Most of you guys have already seen him before, but... Alright. This is my... Oh, there's a huge glare on the screen. What is it glaring to? Anyway, there we go. You can kind of see it. That's him. If you know anything about horses, he's 16.2 hands, which is like ridiculously tall. There we go. Close up his face. He's a good boy. Alright, son. I just see that he's joined Discord. I'm going to wave to you. Alright, sweet. Also, in my Discord, if you guys have a 3D printer, if you're having trouble with it, I have channels for resin support and FDM support. And they're pretty active. Usually I will help you or my husband, but honestly, some will probably get to you before I do because they're really quick. Like Outside Context, Cassie is in there and she is fantastic. She has a lot of really, really good tips and information. So yeah. Someone's actually in resin support right now. Their name is Eric. They actually joined from this, not this stream, but me live streaming last week. And they got their first 3D printer and they have been troubleshooting it in my Discord and it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. It feels really good to be able to help you guys out. And then Sent says, yeah, that's a big boy. Yeah, he's a gigantic horse. He's a thoroughbred. Voxel says, aw. And then Pet, more about their cats, which I love cats. Always talk about your pets. I'm always interested. Pet says, my cat spends the whole day talking to me. They never stop. Seriously. All day, all night. That's how my dad's cat is. My dad's cat is obsessed with him and just very talkative. Taylor says, movies understand animals the same way small children learn about them. Cows go moo, horse go neigh. Oh, I know, right? It's just like, yes, but no. So my neighbors behind me, their barn is like right behind my house. And they're weaning some of the cattle right now, that means when they separate the moms from the babies. And she just yells out there all night, like, the mom couch. I know it sounds sad. The baby is like 10 feet away. Like it's not far. They're starting the weaning process. Luckily I can't hear them inside, but she's very vocal. Lots of mooing. It sounds quite literal of the moo. All right, guys. I'm gonna wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Thank you, Taylor, for subscribing on Patreon, and then thank you, Sent, and there was one other person I saw join Something Games. But yeah. Thanks for being part of the group. I don't really have a name for y'all. You're just supporters of M3DM, so thank you. I'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and I live stream for about 3 hours. And I always share the file for free on stream, but if you missed it and you want the files, again, they're on Patreon. Thank you guys so much for being here. It's a great time, and I'll see you guys tomorrow, okay? Bye!